Good morning, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to First Edition. I've got a young man who's well known. He does a lot of brilliant things in our community. Please help me say good morning to Mr. Benson Williams, founder of Another Day in Paradise Film Festival, or as he just told me, ADIP. And he'll tell you what it all means later. Hey, Benson, morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So let's get started. Tell me, let's start at the very beginning. Do you remember the exact moment when this idea of the festival came to you?
The exact moment was probably the first time I went to a film festival. So a lot of people already know I spent about 10 years in the UK. And so I was exposed to a lot of these different kind of things, and even turning this kind of thing into a career, right? And, you know, being a small island boy, right, from a small group of islands in the Caribbean, I'm like, I want to kind of learn as much as I can and then bring all of that back home, right? So the first time I went to a film festival, my first thought was, how could I replicate this? Now, unbeknownst to me, ADIP wouldn't have been the first film festival ever, but I think we do have some innovativity, right? We have some uniqueness to us that we will probably dive in a bit later. But I think what I wanted was to kind of allow other people, and maybe this is something that is just me, but not only do I want something great for myself, I want my people involved, you see? So I decided not only will I be making films and videos and stuff, I want to encourage other people and inspire them and then showcase that and then have like a whole show about it and give out awards and all that stuff. At the time, I was describing a film festival, but I didn't realize it was a film festival. And then, you know, years later.
But that was quite selfless of you. I mean, not just doing it, making it all about you, you included others. But tell me a bit about the name.
Okay.
How did that name come about? And tell us, what does it mean for you personally?
For me, well, okay, so firstly, I usually pronounce it a dip because it reminds me of taking a dip in the sea.
Yeah.
And if you scrutinize the logo, maybe this here, the logo is like a film strip, what they use in film cameras and stuff, but it's also in the shape of a dipper, right? So you have, you know, back in the day, we would take a dipper, you know, and get it without the well, right? And then you also take a dip in the sea. You coming from, I would be coming from school, obviously, and I'm like, hey man, I just want to take a dip, you know? And then Another Day in Paradise, it just kind of all fell together without me having to do much work. So all of these different things is why we call it ADIP Film Festival.
That's amazing. That's unique.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So what was your first film project, and how did it shape your vision for ADIP, or did it?
My first film project, it did not shape the vision, because this was back in maybe 2008 or so, where I first kind of got the idea that I could probably do this for money, do this as a career, because I was still here in Turks and Caicos, and the Department of Environmental and Coastal Resources, DCR, they were doing a program called Junior Park Water, and it was going to North Caicos, and it was like, hey, can you follow us around with a camera? And then, like, you know, just put it together, right? Because at this time, this wasn't common. So they was just like describing essentially, hey, could you make a video for us, right? But it's like, could you follow us around with your camera and then put it on a DVD? We had DVDs back then. And so I did that, and then she's like, yeah, you know, take this money. And I was like, what? So that came about, and so by the time I went to the UK, I was fully aware that I could make money off of this, but I wasn't fully aware that this could be an actual career. And when I decided to go to the film festivals that they had in London and see all of the different short films and stuff that they had while I was in film school and whatnot, and I realized a lot of people have this vision, and not only do they have the vision, they want to show it to other people. Sometimes we call it passion projects. You make something just to show it to people. And I think everything else is like a bonus. You want to get an award, you want to get a sticker to slap on your poster to say, oh, this is an official selection, or everything that's common today. These things just started off as bonuses because we was just doing it for the fun of it.
Yeah.
You know?
See your name in the credits?
Yeah, see your name in the credits, all these things. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want this for my people. So we did this here, you know, that kind of film festival thing. And we just want to showcase it. And I guess, I don't know, from doing the sports days, everything kind of sparked from before I went to the UK. And then I just kind of, I guess, honed everything together, you know, in a neat little boat. You know?
If you're just joining us, we're speaking to Benson Williams, the founder of the Another Day in Paradise Film Festival, or a dip. And you heard him just explain it to us, and most of us can relate to having taken a dip, you know, in the sea or in the ocean somewhere. But Benson, what would you say have been your biggest personal lessons or growth moments throughout this festival journey?
Okay, well, throughout the festival journey, I would say the biggest growth was not just the venue, because we started really small in a small venue, and then we grew every year. But I would say the process of having a conversation with potential investors and sponsors to say, listen, this is something worth putting money into, because this is something that we need and something that the demand is quite high. Every year, people, I would say, get surprised when they actually show up and say, oh, I didn't know this many people come to the film festival. I'm like, I don't know how else to say it. I say the sun is hot, and I say the film festival is great. And I say it with the same amount of energy. And for some reason, one of those seemed kind of hard to believe, right? Maybe it's the way I say it. I don't know. But so to convince people that this is something worth investing in, I would say is the biggest challenge. And to kind of overcome that is simply just to keep having the conversation. Sometimes you have to keep talking over and over and over, saying the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's
Till
I
it
would
sticks.
say, without a doubt, the biggest challenge. Yeah.
But you mentioned energy. I want to stay there for a second. Tell us a bit about the first ADIP Film Festival. Where was it? How many people showed up, and what was the energy like?
Okay, so the first film festival, this was 2022. We rented out a small conference room over at the Ports of Call complex. They were in control of this small conference room, and they said, oh, we can hold maybe 50 people. And you know, my mind, you know, as we say in the islands, my eye big, you know what I'm saying? So I was already in the 300-400 people, and they was like, yeah, we could hold maybe 50 people. I was like, okay. So I had to accept that, right? But the energy, you know, because I think everyone who was there really saw the potential, and I really appreciated that. Because they treated it as if this was the best thing since sliced bread, and I love that. You know, they came with the right amount of energy, and they gave me all of the support that they could, and you know, it kind of inspired me to kind of keep growing, keep pushing every year, you know, because it's not always easy, but it is, I would say, worth it.
Yeah. So what would you say have been some of the changes or experiences that you've seen since that first film festival?
Well, as the young people say, they put more respect on it now. You know, you put respect on the ADIP name. And I think when it comes to culture, for example, preserving the culture, I think slowly but surely ADIP is becoming a part of that conversation, right? Which, again, I am very appreciative of, because from my own perspective and my vision, this was always what it was, right? But I had to get to that stage in real life, right? So I would say that is the biggest difference, the biggest way that it's been more and more prevalent, let's say.
Yeah. And from the very name and from what you said earlier, we realize that you're trying to really make it something indigenous, something that's about us as Turks and Caicos Islanders and Turks and Caicos Islands. So how important is it for you that the stories being told are stories of the real Turks and Caicos Islands and not just this tourist brochure version?
Well, I won't say the name, but I heard a quote that said, when it comes to indigenous events, you want to prioritize, you want to have the primary focus on the indigenous people. That doesn't mean that you exclude anyone else
Right.
who wants to join. But without a doubt, there will never be a question on who this is for, right? This is for us. This is for us, by us, with us involved.
This
you
for
know what I
we.
mean? This for we. Right, exactly. And so when you consider that this is the primary objective to showcase Turks and Caicos Islanders and showcase our culture and where we come from, all of that stuff, right? I think you already put Turks and Caicos on the map, however you decided to do that. But now we want to know what is conch salad and crack conch and things like that. I don't want to give away too many ideas because, this is an actual competition and I don't want to seem biased, let's say. But I would say when we focus on ourselves, people tend to appreciate that, right? You broke down on the road, you in your car, and they ain't come out to push. Ain't nobody can come and help you.
Yeah.
But then you get out, you start pushing, you see all these people come out of nowhere, So I think that's what we try to do with the dip, and that's what we want to keep pushing for. No pun intended.
Yeah. As a young man, as a Turks and Caicos Islander, as the founder of a dip, as a filmmaker, as a producer, as a director, as an all things wrapped up in one, what do you think, or do you think that there's anything missing or underrepresented in TCI that a dip is trying to surface?
Well, I mean, besides the obvious answer, actual film, putting these things on screen, I would say the constant reminder, right? Because we have people of all ages. We have age 4, age 40, 16, 60,
Yep.
It's a plethora of different ages, different backgrounds. One person might say, oh, I remember when we used to do this and do that and do the other. I remember when we used to go fishing on the beach. And then somebody else don't even know how to swim, who's some younger person and all that stuff. But if you are able to capture both of them with the attention as well as showcase through film what it is to essentially be a Turks and Caicos Islander, and then you make it cinematic and all that stuff, like you don't have to, but you just put it on video. This is, I would say, the peak uniqueness of a dip, right? Because we want to not just showcase our culture, but we want to preserve it as well.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the submission process. What makes a film stand out to you and your selection panel? What is it about a film that you go, oh yeah, wow?
Okay. Well, I'll start with the views from the 649. The category is called Views from the 649. 649 is our area code,
yeah.
And views is a play on words because a famous rapper called one of his songs or something, Views from the 6. Anyway, when it comes to views from the 649, you don't necessarily have to have any skill or anything like that. But if you see something that is picturesque, something that is video worthy, and you record it, that could be viable. It could be something that is worth submitting as long as it follows all of the rules. I can't remember all of them because I think there's like 8 of them or 9 of them. But I know that it has to be between 1 and 10 minutes long. It has to be made within the past 2 years for a DIP 2025. And we because it's a family event, we have to kind of limit the vulgarity of it, right? We want to make sure that it is palatable in every way for all eyes, right? So we can't have too much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would say you have that, I mean, because we have TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all these different platforms where you do these things anyway. Everybody has a camera on their phone. I think Views from the 649 is the easiest category. And if you are not, savvy, tech savvy and all that stuff, just record it and send it in. That's it. Yeah.
So the language and content need to be really carefully looked at, and it needs to be age appropriate, like for all audiences.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not. I would say it's a plethora. Like there's a lot that you can explore and go through when you kind of keep yourself in a box. Like, oh, I can't express myself if I don't use certain words. That, firstly, is something that you would have to work on by yourself. But that is simply not true, because we ain't use certain words yet, and I'm sure everybody understands what we're saying, right? So it's not like you have to go down that route, right? You can go whichever way you want and just make it look good. And because of technology today, you ain't even gotta make it look good enough. You don't gotta do too much work. Like, the technology does that for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's an easy process. Yeah.
You know, we can hear your passion. You're smiling when you speak, so we know you feel good about this. It's something that you enjoy. And we recently saw a film too that the Sports Commission produced. But do you think that one day we'll have a TCI-based film school?
I believe so, and I hope that I'm still alive to see it come into fruition, because that would be great. Honestly, I would love for not just film school, even though that is my niche. I think it would be great because we want to kind of show the world, show the region, show this area, show even the nation, the regular country that we already in right now, that we could do for ourselves. You know, we could do our own thing. I think we have already that mentality in certain fields, spaces, spheres, that we want to do everything ourselves. But the positive side of that is, yes, we can, you know, and I think the film festival helps with that. So I would say, you know, when it comes to doing for yourself, keep that same energy, right? As the young people would say, keep that same energy. And when it comes to making your own film, go ahead. You can have a team. I am not opposed to having a team at all. It's probably gonna make for a better film anyway, but you could do it by yourself too. My whole message is to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's stay there. I like that. And there are a lot of talented, creative people in the Turks and Caicos Islands. What would you say, or what advice would you give to a young person right now who has an iPhone or a telephone, a story, but no resources?
Well, the first thing I would say is, again, that's not true. Because I could give you a very quick story right now that is so mundane. I woke up, I brushed my teeth, and then I had breakfast. The end. That's already at least 5 minutes worth of content, depending on how you want to shoot it, how you want to edit it. If you want to have a voiceover, you know, they have the voiceover stuff now, especially on social media. There's so many, oh, I woke up this morning and I wasn't feeling like that, so I, you know, said a prayer or something like that, or I just did my my own little, I don't know, mantra or whatever it is that you do in the morning when you first wake up, you first open your eyes, and oh, I saw this bird was on this branch and all stuff. Ain't got nothing to do with the story, you know, but you just add that in, flash it out, you know what I mean? All of this, if you really look at it, it's kind of a boring story, but it's so simple, and you already got 5 minutes worth of content. I'm just saying, it's so simple that by saying to yourself and to others, oh, I don't have any inspiration, I can't do that, it's kind of impossible. That's just simply not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far we've been talking about all the glossy stuff. So here's my question. Have you ever had a film that you've had to turn away because it simply didn't align with ADIP's mission?
Yes. So I could give you the process. So we have a team, right? So there's different tiers of teams. So the first team, as you submit your film, we have 3 or 4 people look at it just generally and weigh it up against the rules and say, okay, yeah, sure, this can go. And then we have a smaller team to say, okay, we want to show this one, this one, this one, this one for each category. Those are what we call official selections. Those are the nominees. So we have a show now, right? We have something to show. of these nominees now, we carry that to the actual judges. By the way, this is not me. We carry those specific nominees to each of the categories, each of the judges, and they then, from the nominees, judge to say who should be the winner of that category. And no one knows who the winner is until the host opens the envelope and says the winner is. So not even the host knows until he opens the envelope and says, this is who is the winner.
Yeah.
Right? So it's entertaining through every stage for everyone, right? There's always a little bit of something that no one really knows right up until it happens, right? And then obviously they come and they accept their award and whatnot.
Yeah.
So throughout that process, I would be the initial stage. And hopefully in a perfect world, one day I won't be there at all involved, right? We just have a team to do that by themselves. And I just want to say, okay, so remember this person, they did this, so we can't accept that. And everybody else be like, I don't agree. I'm like, well, the rules say they can't do this, so we can't accept it. And maybe they kind of learn from that, because we've had repeat submissions as well. Not the actual video, but you could see the improvement.
Yeah.
Right? And that is essentially the goal, right? Because if this is a showcase, you want to show the best, not the worst, not something that you just throw together, right? But if you just want to throw something together, that's where the views, I already explained that, right? The views. And by the way, the views from the 649 category does not have a physical judge. It's literally views. Whoever get the most views, that's the one who win. So every year we always have the most submissions for that one, because it's like, I just want to kind of slide something in there, which is fair. At least you're involved, right? And if you win, you want to be there or have someone there to accept the award for you, right? But yeah, I think that's the process. And so to answer your question, yeah, sometimes I would have to say that kind of work.
Yeah.
That kind of work.
Now, Mr. Williams, what about, we talked about resources, and are you seeing, or do you think that local businesses and government agencies are starting to see the value of investing in the creative economy?
I believe so, especially with the new addition of the ministry. I think it's innovation, energy, technology, right? So we definitely, we are starting as a country, starting to see the value of this field, this space of making films, putting everything. And then I think it's the Department of Culture who's also digitizing our culture and stuff. So we definitely want to kind of have some type of system where we can document and have a record of everything that happens. Because I think we went from passing down stories generation to generation. I've even heard my grandfather and others saying how they used to put stuff on the sailboat and whatnot to bring it down. Also, that's great. Now, whatever it is that we do, we need to get that on video, and we could potentially have it for the film festival. Yeah.
What are the goals of ADIP, let's say, over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, ideally, we would want it to run itself, because it's similar to starting a motor. It's similar to one of those things where you kind of kickstart it, you jump-start it, where you just kind of do the initial hard work, and then it just keeps on rolling by itself. When it keeps on rolling by itself, you've done it right, right? And if you've done it right, anyone else, the extra, let's say, people who want to come and look at this motor, who want to look at your film, look at what does TCI have to offer in this space, we have something to point to. Oh, look at the film festival happens. You know what I mean? And so when you do things right and you get the ball rolling, you get the motor running by itself, I would say that is something that the young people would say you could call that a win. Right? That's a good thing to smile at and be proud of. So I think that is the goal, to be able to kind of do what we are doing, but have it do itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listeners, viewers, we're talking to Benson Williams, founder of Another Day in Paradise Film Festival, just colloquially called ADIP. Now, here's a chance for some free promotion. Tell me about ADIP 2025. How do we get involved? Where it is? Is there a cost? What can we as citizens expect? How would you like us to behave? What would you like us to do?
Okay, well, I guess the first thing to know about ADIP, specifically ADIP 25, is that the dress code, it's not really a dress code, but a dress code would be island casual. I went to an event, I saw it there, and I liked that phrase. And essentially is, you know, when you go into Fresh Fry and all that, you know, you want to dress comfortably. You want to be covered, right? But you want to dress comfortably. You know, you put on your good bazaar clothes. You know, you dress how you want to dress. You're comfortable. You look good. You know, I say you look good, right? You know, and people can see you look good, right? You come dressed like that, and it gives you that kind of vibe, right? We have cash prizes. And
wait, before you move on from attire, because I'm always confused at some of these terms we use for attire. So island casual, you said?
Yes.
So does that mean jeans and a nice shirt as well, or no jeans, just slacks?
Well, I mean, yes. Because obviously there's the man and woman, right? So I wouldn't necessarily expect a man to be there in slacks, right? But then it also depends on what you mean by slacks. I would say as long as you are covered and comfortable, that is good. Because if someone shows up in a suit, I don't think they're going to get turned away. You know what I'm saying?
You might be comfortable.
Yes, if this is what you're comfortable in.
Yes.
You dress like you going to church or something like that, or funeral. However you want. If this is what you like, go ahead. What I don't want is for people to dress as if they're going to the beach. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, cover yourselves. You know, this is a family event, right? But you know, whatever is comfortable for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. If you want to have a jeans and shirt, I don't know if you see my outfit. If you want to dress like how I'm dressed right now, you can do that too.
Okay. All right.
And if you see someone with a lanyard like this, they probably helping out with the film festival. Ask them whatever questions. Whatever this is says, ask me about a dip, right? So ask them whatever you want to ask. And I think
so. That was the attire. Where? Venue?
This year we are at the Brayton Hall facility on Venetian Road, and we have I think one vendor. We might get another one. I don't want to talk on it. We're still in the process of getting sponsors and vendors. But when it comes to the tiers, right? I wanted to kind of have, because everything is like kind of water themed, even though everything ain't on the beach. So the first couple rows in the front, that is the shoreline seats. Those tickets are $50, and they come with a free drink or a free snack from the concession. And then you have behind them in the sea, right? When you take a dip in the sea, this is basically the bulk of the crowd. Majority of people want to sit in the middle, right? Those I think are $40. Those two come with a free drink or a free snack. You decide when you get there which one you want. They'll give you the ticket, and you understand. And then I think it's just everyone else is, I want to say $30, and that's dive and conquer, right? They say when you fall asleep, you so far behind, you don't know what's going on, you dive. So that's what that is. And so when you kind of go online, we have a QR code with the poster, and we have the link, on all our social media pages, so you can always kind of get your tickets online, whatever you want, and all of this information that I'm saying would be repeated, in case I'm talking too fast. And you see whatever it is that you want, how many tickets you want, all of that stuff, and then you just kind of, it's supposed to be a smooth and seamless transaction, So hopefully that
date and time?
The date is the same every year, 31st of July, because the next day is Emancipation Day, which is a holiday, and we want to kind of give a nod to that, but also give you a time to rest or whatever. So it limits the amount of excuses. Oh, I got such and such, and this person's to watch, and I might have work tomorrow. Some people do have work tomorrow, but majority of you do not. So you can come out and enjoy yourself and bring whoever it is you got to watch, because it's a family event. Everybody could come, right? So it would be the same date every year, 31st of July.
And what sort of capacity are you looking at right now?
They
You can hit your 400 now?
I hope so. I hope so. We know how to make things work. Eh? I think they said the capacity was 300 or somewhere around there. But if we exceed that, we know how to make things work, right? And we make sure that you got a seat somehow, some way, right? But I would say first come, first serve that generally, right? Because I would assume most people want to sit closer to the front than to the back. So, and we're not really running on island time. So you would see it say it start at 7:30. Whether you there or not, we're going to start, because we also don't have all day. Okay. Yeah. So,
and that's important.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is just your second year, right?
This would be the fourth year.
The fourth?
Actually. Yeah.
Okay, so this is your fourth festival. So has a dip reached a point yet where it's kind of mentoring, where it goes to schools, where it's doing some sort of film mentorships or talking to the youth? Are you there yet?
Yes, we are, but it's more so so in terms of like having a workshop where you actually teach people how to make films and stuff like that, a dip does not do that. But it does allow for people to know, to become aware, so we still do those awareness campaigns, if you will, where we just go to places. I was just at the youth center on Saturday talking about a dip to the different classes and whatnot. But we understand that this is in the middle of summer, so majority of those places would be kind of closed. So unless you are on social media or you know of it already and you're not on vacation, you wouldn't be able to kind of capture that opportunity, because we're already in June somewhere. I don't know when schools close completely, so it's not a lost cause, but it's less likely now because everywhere is starting to close down, right? So so yes and no. Sorry to answer your question, yes and no.
So we're talking about Turks and Caicos Islands and Turks and Caicos Islanders, and a lot of us like to get in people's business. So let me go there. How do you fund a festival like this, and has that journey been easy?
I think the majority of the funding comes from sponsors. We have different kinds of sponsors, different tiers of sponsors. In other words, some sponsors are blessed enough to give a certain amount, 4 figures. Others could only give maybe 3. And then you have some people who want to kind of just donate, whatever you can give, and then obviously ticket sales. So everything kind of gets poured into making the film festival a success every year. The biggest challenge I would say is, one, because my eye big, I have to take full responsibility. It's me, right? Because we could easily, I won't name any other venues, but we could easily go backward, let's just say, and then ultimately have more disposable to kind of spend on other things. But then if the goal is to showcase, and we want to showcase to as many people as possible, then we need a bigger venue, right? It just makes sense to me. So I guess it's good that my eye big. So what we want to do, I think, is keep the momentum when it comes to sponsorships and all of the funding. We don't necessarily do crowdfunding. Crowdfunding would probably be the ticket sales, because it's more of a transactional thing. If you come in to be entertained, and we giving you a little something to eat or something to drink and all that stuff, and for those that actually win, we giving you a whole award. You don't gotta pay. You don't gotta pay for submission, and you don't gotta pay for the trophy, right? So as we say in the island, something got to give. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't just say, oh yeah, just come in and partake. You know, we're not there yet. Maybe one day, but definitely not today. Not this year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you dream of turning a dip into a regional hub by attracting filmmakers, you know, Barbados, Jamaica, Bahamas? Do you dream of turning it into sort of a regional hub?
Yes, as a matter of fact. If by God's grace we are able to make this a regional thing where everyone in the region knows of a Dip Film Festival, like how we know of the Caribbean Film Festival, and I think they have one in Cayman Islands. There's one in Bahamas, I believe. If we can get to that level, that would be great. That would be phenomenal. I would love that. I would love that, and I think everybody on our team would love that, because that is the goal. We're not just putting Turks and Caicos on the map. We want to showcase. We want to show what we about, what we could do.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Each year, as the festival draws nearer, is there anything that keeps you up at night as founder and producer? Is there anything that you worry about?
I would say the main thing that I worry about, I mean, I don't necessarily worry, because this is not for profit. In other words, we don't do this to get a profit from the public. I would say the turnout, because what is not really dreaded, but what is disheartening is when people say, "Oh, I didn't know we had a film festival," because what that says to me is, am I not doing enough? Like, what else do we have to do to get you to at least be aware? Like, how did you not know, right? So if you get enough of those, it makes you think, okay, well then if they don't know it's happening, then they probably won't show up to the actual event. So I would say that is something that I would worry about if I was to put anything in that category. Because I don't worry about it. I know that there is enough people that do know about it. And eventually, you know, in a perfect world, it will be so many people that know about it and want to show up that we may even outgrow Brayton Hall and we need a bigger event. So if you know a space that is bigger than Brayton Hall, that we could, you know, control the lighting and all that stuff, you know, because we show in films, we want to make sure it's, you know, showable. Please let us know, you know, send us an email or hit us up on one of the social media platforms. But yeah.
So we've been talking about your festivals and all the things that you do. What would you say has been your proudest or one of your proudest moments? And then likewise, what's been your least proud?
Well, the proudest moment is definitely watching people win, watching them accept the award, you know, because like I already mentioned earlier, nobody knows who's going to win until right before their name gets called or as the name gets called, you know, because we want to have that vibe like how the Oscars and the Emmys are, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, and then I don't know, maybe one day we have like some cameras to like get a close up of all the people that, you know, how they do. So I would say that is probably the peak. You know, the best thing, the most rewarding thing, the thing that I like the most about this is just seeing how their face light up and stuff, and you know, kind of limiting. You know, it's like, hey, don't bring your whole posse up here, okay? We want maybe one or two of you to come up, give you a 1-minute speech, and then please exit stage to right or left. You know, we don't want too much, but I like that because at least they're, you know, involved and engaged and interacting. You know, and then on the flip side, I would say the worst thing is not really getting the recognition. Similar to when people say, "Oh, I didn't know about it," but that also means if you didn't know about it, you're not submitting. We want people to submit. We want the numbers. We want more and more people to be involved, because that is that motor turning, right? That's kind of not the only, but one of the ways that you know that what you're doing is working, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Benson.
Okay.
What was the first film that Benson cried at?
Ah, boy. Are you are you talking about me as an adult or just in my whole life? Because I could easily say Lion King. I could easily say that.
You cried at Lion
Everybody
King?
cried at Lion King. I don't care what you say, right? When he was, saying, "Hey, Dad, move," and he was moving because, you know what I'm saying. Everybody, anyway. What do you
So
mean?
Lion King. Okay, let's go with Lion King then. What's been your funniest?
I did a project with a friend when I was in film school, and he wanted to do comedy, and so there was just joke after joke after joke, and it was very entertaining and very laughable, because it was as they say, slapstick comedy, whereas it's not necessarily falling on a banana peel, but things like that. So I appreciated that, and I think that was the funniest. Now, that doesn't mean that made me laugh the most, but I think it was the funniest.
Yeah.
Because some people might say I have a different sense of humor. So the things that I find funny might not be funny to everybody. So I am not going to expose myself. But yeah, that's my final answer.
What would you say is one of the things that you think the world or TCI itself hasn't seen enough of TCI on screen? Is there something about us that you think we haven't seen enough of yet on screen?
Okay, well, I think we might not have seen enough. I mean, I could generally say culture, right? But I mean specifically culture in terms of why is that? Why is this way? Why is the color for Grand Turk red? Stuff like that. I think there have been attempts, right, where people would say, oh, this is what this is, and this is how this government works, and this is why this is all that stuff. We have tax books, all of these things, and no discredit to them, but we want to kind of have it somewhere where we can preserve it, and we want to also make it fun, make it entertaining, put it in the film festival. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying do what you did before, but not do it on video and put it in the film festival. That's what I'm saying. By the way, the submissions are open right now. Okay, yes, please, yes.
That's a good point you just raised. So how are you preserving these films?
Well, they are ideally kept on YouTube, right? YouTube, I couldn't tell you, but YouTube is a platform specifically for videos. You have movies, you have comedy shows, you have documentaries, you have short films, you have vlogs, and all these different things. It's quite literally, I don't know all of the, it's a lot of gigabytes is what I'm saying. So, and when you kind of have something that's online, it preserves itself virtually forever, right? So you have growth in people who are creating these different online platforms, and YouTube is just one example, because you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have, I don't even know all of the different places, but you have these places where you can upload stuff and have it there forever. This is what a dip does. We upload this stuff, but before that, because ideally, if it's something, generally it's 1 year. The video has to be 1 year old at least. I mean, at the most. But this year is 2 years. If it's something like that, then chances are majority of people have not yet seen it.
Yeah.
So we want to have it shown at the film festival first. This is the first time. We have a feature film every year. The East Cakers Project, which is a docu-series. So the first episode of the East Cakers Project will be featured. The first video, technically the first video you see at the film festival, but that's only for those who are actually there. Eventually, one day, it will be uploaded, and that's how we preserve it. But before we preserve whatever we have, we want to showcase it, right? So a dip kind of does both. Yeah.
We've been seeing lots of billboards and ads where the Department of Culture is venturing to digitize, the archives. What's your relationship as a filmmaker and as the founder and producer of ADIP with the Department of Culture? Are you working with them to pass some films on so that they too can preserve them?
Well, I wouldn't say it's like a contractual agreement, but I think, as a local filmmaker, I feel kind of a duty to be a part of this movement, right? To digitize and preserve and whatnot. So I would say I'm working with them in that regard, but it's not like any official thing, because remember, for me, this started as a passion, right? So when I hear, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, we're making this video, we're making that video, I just want to be a part of it because that's what I like to do, right? But the film festival is essentially kind of trying to spark that in other people as well, right? So it's not necessarily anything in writing, anything that is concrete. It's just doing a little something, you know what I mean? I have a lot of island terms, that because I'm an island boy. So. But yeah.
Now, what would you say to someone who has never been to an ADIP Film Festival? I don't need to tell you where to look, but look and speak to that person directly.
Okay. Well, the first thing I would say is to get notified, get acquainted, get aware, do whatever you have to do to know the information that you need to know so that you can get where you need to get, because this year we are at Brayton Hall. The doors open at 7 p.m. and it's on the 31st of July. So if you've never been there before, I promise you there will be few people who actually know you ain't never been here before. I would say just come. just come and enjoy yourself, And if you have somebody else that you know of that might enjoy it as well, just come. We want to entertain you and we want to give you that good, clean fun. All you got to do is sit there and enjoy. Yeah.
So Benson, how can the public support you, even those who are not filmmakers?
Well, I mean, besides actually, buying a ticket and showing up to the event, well, I don't know what strategies people who are competing in the Views for the 649 will do. If I was competing, I would say, hey, could you share this video? So that's another way of supporting. You can support by liking and following our pages. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You can sponsor if you are in a position to sponsor or, donate or whatever. Say, oh, I want to see this, keep on going, So here, take this, insert cash here, because everything costs money, There's also word of mouth, right? We want to make sure that a dip is in everybody's mouth, right? So opposite of what Will Smith said. We want to keep a dip in your mouth. We want to make sure that everybody talking about it all the time, right? And like I mentioned earlier, when we start to talk about preserving our culture and having different events and all that stuff, everybody know what fish fry is. I want everybody to know what a dip is, right? So talk about it. Say, I'm telling you now, so now you can go and tell somebody else. I heard a quote that said, each one reach one, and when you reach one, you teach one, right? So just do that. Just you reach one person and let them know about a dip.
Yeah. So recap the logistics of a dip for us. Tell us again where, when, how, cost.
Okay, so where is Brayton Hall? Doors open at 7, 31st of July. And I guess that would be the when as well. I'm guessing how you want to submit if you want to be involved in the competition. We have Best Story, we have Views from the 649, and we have Best Music Video. So the Best Story is pretty much anything. We're focusing on the story. So if you submit something and you say, okay, I want this to be a part of the Best Story competition, I think it makes sense to have a story, right? Because if you don't have a story, then you can't be mad if you don't win, right? And then best music video, we like our Bush music. Some people like rap, some people like R&B, some people like to dance. You could do a dance video. We just need it to be between 1 minute and 10 minutes long.
And the music doesn't have to be of Turks and Caicos origin?
No.
Okay.
Because we're focusing on the video, not the audio.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the audio does help because
it complements the video.
Yeah, it complements the video. And if you, because remember, this is a competition, so you have to bear in mind that you may be going up against someone who is actually doing something that's more relevant to Turks and Caicos. Now, I don't know how the judges think, but if the judges say, "Oh, I like this one better," there's nothing I could do. My hands are literally out of that pot at this point, right? But we also want people to just have fun, right?
Yeah.
So you do you. If you get a nomination, now that would be my goal, to at least get a nomination, at least get that official selection, so that when people show up, they could see what you did. That's my goal. I can't speak for anybody else. That's what I would want. And then just talk about it. We talk about it all year round, and follow the page, all of that.
We're almost out of time, Benson, but leave us with one line. What is the heart of a dip, in your words?
One line, okay. Storytelling is key. That's our theme, and that is the whole goal, to make sure everybody tell their stories. Yeah.
So it's all about storytelling.
It's all about storytelling. Yeah.
Listeners, viewers, we've had a great conversation with the founder of Another Day in Paradise, ADIP, Mr. Benson Williams. Remember to go out and support the festival on July 31st at Brayton Hall. Doors open at 7?
Yep.
7 p.m. So let's go out and support our own and learn something more about Turks and Caicos, and perhaps you can tell your own story. So let's give Benson and his team all our support on July 31st. Benson, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
Come
having
again.
me.
I want to hear all about it afterward, if you actually had those 400 persons.
Oh, yes, I will.
And remember, Benson is looking for bigger venues. If you know of somewhere bigger than where he's going to be currently, let him know, because as he said, his eyes are big. So until next week, this has been First Edition. Thank you for joining us.